WNYC support comes from the New York Community Trust. For 100 years, New Yorkers have turned to the Trust, creating charitable legacies through their wills to meet changing needs in New York City, Long Island, and Westchester. More at give2.nyc.
On the next Fresh Air, immigration and customs enforcement is in force, and students are in the crosshairs at college campuses nationwide, from Columbia to the University of Alabama. Legal scholar Daniel Canstrom joins us to unpack the law, the history, and the human cost. Join us. Weekdays at 2 on WNYC.
It's 6:51. Marketplace Morning Report is next, and later on Morning Edition, Democratic New Jersey Senator Cory Booker gave the longest Senate floor speech in the chamber's documented history. He spoke for more than 25 hours in protest of Trump administration policies.
This is our moral moment. This is when the most precious ideas of our country are being tested.
More on that in about 15 minutes right here on WNYC. If you're heading out the door, take us with you in the WNYC app. 38 and sunny right now. It's chilly out there. Mostly sunny today and a high in the upper 40s. And then tomorrow morning, fog, drizzle, shower chances into the afternoon and the high all the way up near 70. 38 and sunny now at 6:52.
A massive tax increase on imports.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benishore, in for David Brancaccio. This afternoon at the White House, President Trump is scheduled to unveil tariffs. A lot of them. The president has said they will apply to practically all countries that export goods to the U.S., although we do not know exactly how high these import taxes will be yet. What we do know is that a whole lot of U.S. allies are promising to retaliate in what could be the beginning of a far-flung trade war. Marketplace's Nova Safo has more.
The Trump administration says tariffs will raise revenues for the federal government and incentivize more domestic manufacturing. On Fox News over the weekend, advisor Peter Navarro said tariffs will bring in some $600 billion a year in new revenues and will be coupled with income tax cuts.
If you look at this, but basically holistically, as they say, consumers and Americans are going to be better off, including all the jobs they get.
But a lot of experts are not so sure. Former U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai, who served during the Biden administration, said instead of targeting allies, we should focus on the People's Republic of China, or PRC.
There are economies and countries that we need to work with to take on the common challenge of coexisting and competing successfully with the PRC economic model.
Meanwhile, the tariffs to be announced today have allies in Europe and Asia planning retaliatory measures. Add to that the uncertainty brought on by how the Trump administration has rolled out new tariffs. Doug Irwin is professor of economics at Dartmouth College with a focus on trade policies.
It's very hard to foster business investment if there's not some certainty about what policy is going to be 2, 3, 5 years down the road. That uncertainty just sort of freezes up investment rather than unleashing it.
Many analysts say they want more clarity from the administration, both on the scope of the tariffs and the objectives the White House is trying to achieve. I'm Nova Safo for Marketplace.
Johnson & Johnson has been trying for years to settle lawsuits that allege its talc baby powder caused cancer. A federal judge has rejected its latest attempt to do that. This is the third time J&J's attempted to resolve thousands of legal claims through bankruptcy courts. Marketplace's Henry Epp has more on why this issue ended up in bankruptcy court in the first place and what might be ahead for plaintiffs.
Johnson & Johnson is not bankrupt. It's a profitable company. But 4 years ago, it created a subsidiary to handle its liabilities related to baby powder lawsuits.
People have called this maneuver the Texas two-step.
Melissa Jacoby is a professor of law at UNC Chapel Hill. She says this strategy uses what's called a divisive merger to create the subsidiary, a move that's accepted in Texas. The intent is to shield a company from litigation costs. But she says J&J was unique in its attempt to use the bankruptcy process to handle current litigation and protect itself from future legal claims over talc products.
Bankruptcy is not the intended venue for profitable companies to cap their liability for an alleged harm.
Federal courts rejected J&J's bankruptcy claims twice because the company was not in financial distress, Jacoby says. This third attempt was rejected for different reasons. Plaintiffs were given a chance to vote on whether to accept a settlement, and the judge found irregularities in that voting process. Carl Tobias is a law professor at the University of Richmond.
And it wasn't entirely clear what those irregularities were, but they were enough to convince him that it shouldn't go forward.
In a statement, Johnson & Johnson says it won't appeal the latest federal bankruptcy court ruling. Instead, it says it will litigate tens of thousands of claims in civil courts. Tobias is skeptical the courts can handle that.
That will be impossible in the system as it's set up now. Just could not take on that volume of cases.
J&J, Tobias says, might reach settlements, but that could take a while. And plaintiffs have already waited 4 years as the company attempted to handle claims through bankruptcy court. I'm Henry Epp for Marketplace.
Johnson & Johnson stock fell 8% yesterday. And with that, let's do the numbers. Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are all down in the 5 to 7/10% range, with the Dow futures down 196 points. The yield on the 10-year Treasury is at 4.15%. Also, the 30-year fixed mortgage rate fell slightly to only 6.71%. The deadline for TikTok to be sold or shut down is this Saturday. Yes, we are going through this all over again. President Trump delayed this deadline back in January after he took office, and he could delay it again. He's reportedly reviewing a deal to get it sold and therefore keep it operating. Cloud computing company Oracle, along with other U.S. investors like Blackstone, are among those that could be involved with making an offer to buy TikTok from its Chinese owner, ByteDance.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive. Progressive Commercial Auto Insurance protects the cars, trucks, and vans that work to keep small businesses moving forward, including protection while running errands and other tasks. More at progressivecommercial.com.
More than 60% of all purchases last year were made with a credit or debit card, according to the Federal Reserve. That's up from just 45% in 2016. And that has meant a lot of money for credit card companies. They made more than $187 billion last year in processing fees alone. For businesses that take credit cards, especially smaller businesses, it is an increasing expense. Marketplace's Samantha Fields reports.
Mac Hay owns a bunch of seafood restaurants and markets on Cape Cod in Massachusetts, and he says credit card swipe fees are kind of like taxes.
You just kind of take it as a fact. It's sort of like, well, I guess we're going to have to pay them. We're going to have to pay the credit card processing fees.
More than 90% of his customers pay with a card. It's not like he's not going to take them. So he doesn't think about it much until the end of the month comes around.
When I see what we pay in credit card fees, it's astronomical.
Restaurants tend to have thin profit margins, maybe 5-10%. Erica Palmer at the Independent Restaurant Coalition says for many, paying between 2 and 4% of every sale to process a card is tough.
I talked to a restaurant last week who is paying $15,000 in swipe fees a month.
Bigger businesses can often negotiate slightly lower fees, but small ones don't have the leverage. And
Visa and MasterCard dominate the credit card market in the U.S. 80% of credit card transactions are going through those two processors.
So she says there's not much pressure to offer competitive rates. I'm Samantha Fields for Marketplace.
And in New York, I'm Sabri Benishore with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
WNYC is supported by the Jewish Museum. On view through August 10, the Book of Esther in the Age of Rembrandt presents masterpieces by Rembrandt and his contemporaries inspired by the heroic story of biblical Queen Esther. Tickets at thejewishmuseum.org.